Hello, everybody. This is Carol Maletta. Welcome to the Parenting 411 podcast, where we share information parents need from sources they can trust. Today on the Parenting 411, we are in for an incredibly insightful conversation. Joining me is Lane Igoudin, an inspiring dad. He's aspiring and inspiring. Dad, writer, and trailblazer in the LGBTQ plus community. Lane, along with his husband, embarked on a remarkable journey in the early 2000s, navigating the twists and turns of the U.S. adoption system to build their family. His story isn't just about fatherhood. It's about love, faith, and the evolving landscape of adoptive parenting within the LGBTQ plus community. So settle in and join us as we dive into a conversation filled with heart, challenges, and the profound joy of building a family against the odds. Welcome, Lane.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yes, I think this is a very, very important story that people should learn more about. I just interviewed another parent last week about transcultural adoption. So I like having these stories. Her story is a little different from yours, but I believe together, and I do plan to run these in succession, will provide a wealth of information and insight for families that are embarking on the journey of adoption. So thank you so much for being here.
Great. Thank you.
So looking back, what are some aspects of the journey that you wish somebody had told you about before you got started?
Well, we went into the process, my husband, John and I went into the process with, I would say with two purposes. We wanted to have kids. And at that time, we had multiple venues available to us. We could have gone the surrogacy route, we could have done international adoption, but we really wanted to give a home to one or two children right here in Los Angeles. And Los Angeles back then, Los Angeles County, then and now, still has the largest foster system in the United States. At the time when we went into the process, there were between 30 and 35,000 kids in that system. So we thought, why should we go abroad or do something else when there are kids right here, probably within a quarter of a mile, that need a home? So we were very excited and a little naive. So what I would tell a prospective parent, and actually I just got a call last night from somebody who knows someone who is interested. I said, you need to really arm yourself with resources. You need to learn about the system, and you need to expect the unexpected. Because public adoption is a very complex process, and there are many parties involved in deciding what will happen. What's happening with the child now will happen with the child in the future. Birth families, social workers, attorney, the judge, and everybody's got their needs, responsibilities, and all of this can make the outcome for the child and for your family very unpredictable. So you need to really learn about the way the system works, and kind of be prepared for the unexpected. It's going to be a journey. It could be a very successful journey, a short journey, or it could be something that's protracted and takes time. And so, yeah, I would say just learn about it first, but don't let that scare you.
Right.
Don't let that scare you. You are, there are children that are waiting for you. So yes.
And I want to highlight something that you said, that distinction between you called it a public adoption.
Right.
And so very often there's a whole system behind that. That's what I'm gathering. Because I don't have personal experience with adoption. Whereas I suppose with a private adoption, you're dealing with an agency, and there's not as much, like you may have an encounter with the birth parent, but there's not this other whole system behind it. And usually, I'm wondering if usually with the private adoption agency, there's a little more certainty about the parent wanting the child to be adopted, and there might not be as much of a battle. Is that a
Those are two completely different routes.
mm,
We do know some parents who adopted privately, and
mm,
with private adoption, there's usually a um a woman involved,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
a young woman,
mm,
or a woman, I would say at the beginning of her career, who is not ready to have a child, who make a very conscious decision that
got it.
once they give birth,
Mm-hmm,
they would like that child to be placed with a family that they approve.
mm-hmm,
So in that case, you really don't, there's no state interest involved. There is no county involved. You basically usually work, I think, through a lawyer who
mm-hmm,
arranges for the birth mother to give birth, and then
mm-hmm,
you also decide with the birth mother
mm-hmm.
how much of a contact you want to keep afterwards.
Okay.
Um, so that's the private adoption route, and it's been available for quite some time. Public adoption is when you adopt children
Mm-hmm.
um, from our child welfare system, where in which they are detained. I'm just using a legal term here. So
Sure.
basically, when the child is not, when the natural family of the child is not able to take care of the child, then the state comes in and detains the child, and then decides to use another legal term, how to dispose of the child. That's called a
Mm,
disposition hearing. So
wow.
could be
Language matters. My goodness.
tell me about it. Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, the most desirable outcome is for the child to go back to the birth family.
Mm-hmm.
But if that doesn't work, there's something what's called concurrent planning. So at the same time as the state detains the child, they're also looking for alternative ways in case things don't work out.
Mm-hmm.
And in that case, long-term foster care or a foster to adoption route is
Mm-hmm.
what's being planned.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So with that, right away, if you are in the foster adoptive parent seat, then you're facing a very kind of conflicting set of responsibilities. On one hand, you should be a dedicated foster parent where you're providing a home and taking care of the child and
Mm-hmm.
are ready to give up the child at any moment,
Sure.
right?
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, if something changes in the courtroom, right, 20 miles away or 30 miles away, and
Mm-hmm.
the chat and the court rules that to terminate
Mm-hmm.
reunification and then later on parental rights of the birth parent, then you are expected to be this, a forever loving, a fully attached parent to the same child that you were just a foster parent to. And in real life, there's absolutely no change, really, because it's
Mm-hmm.
still the same child and you're still the same person, and it's still the same bonds you've built over the, weeks, months, years as in our case.
Sure.
And so there's this huge, huge contradiction, I would say, in trying to how can you be both? How can you be both? And is it really humanly possible to be both?
Right, right. And I appreciate you for describing that, because some people who are listening, who may be considering adoption, might be thinking, well, if I can't do the private, like they may not be familiar with the inner workings of being able to work with the child welfare system.
Mhm.
They think that they have to work with an agency, and then you mention an attorney, and just maybe it's more cost prohibitive for them, or just any number of things that may scare them about going the private route. But it's also, you provide a very realistic picture of how what can be ahead of you if you're adopting through the
Mhm.
child welfare system. But of course, we know, just looking at your family, that it's worth it, but you just ought to know about um, what it's like. So I appreciate that.
I'd like to bring up some financial considerations because I do understand
Sure.
that some of your audience members would want to know, well, can
Sure.
I afford to go this route? And I would tell you that uncertainty isn't like, on one hand there's uncertainty, on the other hand the state and actually the federal government provide quite a lot of support
Good.
so basically it could be financial support, but it is also, like, I live in the state of California.
Mm-hmm.
Our children have always been on the state healthcare system, which is before
Mm.
before the Patient Care Act was not a
Mm-hmm.
given.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some resources the state provides to support you during and even after the adoption from the child welfare system.
That's good to know. That's very good to know. And throughout your journey, was there ever a concern, because we did talk about the balance between reunification with the family, the goal of
Mhm.
reunification with the family, with adoption. Was there ever a time in your journey where there was a chance that maybe the girls would be going back with their family, for example? Was there ever a concern that you thought you might not be able to ultimately adopt
Well,
them?
our whole story is really built around this, a journey, well, a process
Hmm.
which span, in our situation, years,
Hmm.
in which um, the court was trying to decide whether to let the children stay with us and their
Okay.
sisters, so let one or both sisters stay with us, which you would also understand what might have led to the separation of the sisters,
Sure.
or let them go back to their birth mother or to the birth father of one of them.
Hmm.
Um, and um, while the intent is definitely something we would all want,
Hmm.
and that's an overarching intent, but when it comes to a specific case, and I would say ours is a very specific case, and I can't really speak for other cases so much, but
Sure.
I can speak for our case. Um, the kind of environment the children would have gone back to
Hmm.
was really concerning to us. Was
Okay.
really concerning to us. And I'm not giving away much of my book by telling you that at the time when um, our children were in the process, the birth mother of our children
Hmm.
was a teenager in foster care.
Okay.
So, um, on one hand, the state was trying to build her up as a parent, but she was deeply traumatized from what I could tell, and
Sure.
from her experiences, which are described in the book as we go through the process.
Hmm.
And she really, really needed to build up herself and to be able to learn to take care of herself, never
Hmm.
mind one baby or two.
Sure. Hmm.
So the willingness of the judge to continue to um, really focus on her and
Hmm.
also later on the birth father of one of the children, to me really came at the expense of the children. Because the
Mm-hmm.
children to me were never really at the center of the process. It was really all about the birth family.
Mm-hmm.
Are they kid, can they do this? Can they do that? And it was like, but look, I mean, look at the reality. I mean, and and also what was concerning to me and I is that the parties in the court that decide, and that's probably, that's probably one of the most striking things is that no one in the court had ever actually met these children except for the birth parents. Neither the
Okay.
attorneys, the
Mm-hmm.
court-appointed attorneys, nor
Mm-hmm.
the county council that was representing the Los Angeles County, nor
Mm-hmm.
the judge. They never got
Mm.
to meet these kids. To
Wow.
all of them were basically the kids were basically a bunch of files with reports in them from the people who seen them and reported on their welfare. And I would
Sure.
say one or two out of hundreds of files they had to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And to us, they were real children, and so we were really concerned about what's happening with them and what was going to happen to them,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you
and
just
also what was going
okay.
to happen to us as a family.
Right.
While the court was building a case, parties in the court were building the case for sending the children to their families and all that, but at the same time, the children have been with us 24/7,
Yes.
building bonds
Mm-hmm.
with us, with each other, the
Mm-hmm.
younger ones since birth,
Mm-hmm.
week after week, month after month, year after year.
Mm-hmm.
We were not some sort of a pie in the sky family. We were the very real family that we're growing up in.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so that wasn't, That was really not part of the equation.
Wow, thanks for that peek behind the curtain, so to speak. We'll be right back after this. If you're looking to reach a massive audience of parents and caregivers, then look no further than ProPix by the Parenting 411, the ultimate marketing program designed to skyrocket your brand to new heights. With ProPix, we've created 3 incredible packages to suit your marketing needs and budget. So let's take a look. First up is our social starter package. You'll receive a stunning graphic promo piece, plus we'll also feature your brand on the Parenting 411 Instagram page. It's the perfect way to make a memorable first impression and get parents buzzing about your business. Now, if you're ready to level up, our Parenting Pro package is where it's at. You'll enjoy all the benefits of the social starter package, plus more awesome benefits, including exposure on the Parenting 411 podcast, which reaches parents in more than 22 countries each week. But wait, there's more. For those seeking the pinnacle of marketing power, our Elite Exposure package is the way to go. You'll get even more exposure across our platform, including thousands of followers and connections on LinkedIn. Get ready to dominate the airwaves and establish yourself as the go-to resource for families everywhere. Take advantage of ProPix by the Parenting 411 today and unlock unparalleled marketing opportunities for your business. But I should tell you that prices are set to increase on November 1st, so act now. ProPix by the Parenting 411 is your passport to the hearts and minds of parents. Visit ProPix by P411.com. Join us today and watch the magic happen. And we're back with the Parenting 411. Now, you mentioned a little earlier how you're not with the child welfare system when you're a foster parent or when you're seeking to adopt. You're not really directly involved in the court proceedings. So how was that, where it's kind of happening and you're not there and that kind of thing? How did you get the information that you needed about your children's cases?
Sadly, we were not part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned agencies, and it kind of varies around the country. In some counties, in some states,
Mm-hmm.
you would deal directly with a county. In some counties where there's too many children for the county to handle, and
Mm-hmm.
here comes Los Angeles being the largest in the country,
Mm-hmm.
they basically farm out, contract out,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, in a certain amount of cases to the agencies that contract with the county to manage them for the county. So
Mm-hmm.
you have like this, you have like another layer. So we could have gotten certified directly with the county, but instead we decided to go with a foster adoption agency, which would sort of function like a buffer, or at least it was intended to, between us
Mm-hmm.
and the county. But to go back to the court, the foster family, which was intending to adopt these kids, were never part of the court process. At some point, we hired an attorney and we petitioned the court to become the de facto parent,
Mm-hmm.
to receive the de facto parent status on the older child who had been with us at that point longer than she had been with her birth mother, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And we went in, and our petition was denied, and we were asked to leave the courtroom immediately. So basically, the whole
Mm-hmm.
process, the whole transaction took less than 3 minutes.
Wow.
Um, and we didn't really make it into the courtroom until years later, until the parental rights were terminated and were asked to come back for the adoption hearing.
Mm-hmm.
So with all this, we would receive information as to what transpired in the court whenever it would sort of trickle down to us.
Sure.
Sometimes days, sometimes a week later. Often I had to I had to call and call and call to find out, so what happened? You told us that, you know,
Mm,
something was going to happen, and what really came out? How is it affecting us now? How's it affecting the kids?
sure.
And but wouldn't get any reply for quite some time. Or sometimes I'll try to get it like getting around the social worker to ask somebody else who might know, and so kind of getting this information and trying to make your decisions based on that
Hmm.
um, was very difficult.
Hmm. So, do you think that the process has improved since the early 2000s? How has it changed in terms of what an adoptive family could expect now?
Again, I can't speak for the whole country, and again, some county systems are funded better and probably have fewer children than Los Angeles does.
Sure.
Um, I, from what know, the process, I mean, the process itself hasn't changed much. And
Hmm.
and overall, it's still pretty much the same process as it was, years ago, let's say, or 15 years ago when we were dealing with it. In some ways, it probably got worse.
Hmm.
I'm aware of the legislation which was passed in 2018 under the previous administration,
Hmm.
which redirected some of the funding away from the group homes,
Okay.
thinking that maybe, but the outcome of that, as Los Angeles Times have been documenting in a series of articles, has been that there are fewer group homes available now. I'm not talking about family homes, but like group homes, larger
I know what
homes,
you
like
mean.
that, you
Hmm.
know. And the county is now desperate to find places to put the children, or just putting them in hotels.
Mm.
And there are all kinds of issues and that are coming up with it, but basically the
Sure.
county is stretched. But let me tell you, Carol, it is easy to criticize the county. It is
Hmm.
easy to criticize the system.
Hmm.
The system, um, from what I could tell, there was no ever any sort of ill intent. Well, let's
Right.
kind of put these kids through the ringer. No, no,
Right.
no. I mean, it wasn't like that. Nobody was really mean. Everybody means well. The thing is, the system is overstretched and underfunded.
Hmm.
The social workers, children's attorneys, the judge. Give an example. Um, I was very critical of the judge, in my personal opinion. However, I looked up the statistics and I found that a judge is supposed to have something like 170 cases. Judges in California in children's court may have up to 600 cases to deal with.
Wow.
When we came to the adoption hearing, after everything we've gone through over the years, and the judge
Hmm.
pulls up the file and says, "Okay, so here we are for a very happy occasion to finalize the adoption of the child Elizabeth." I said, "What Elizabeth?" It's like her name is not Elizabeth, so she really had no idea. She really had no idea, and then she said, "Oh," and then she pulled up our daughter's name. She said,
Sure.
"Oh, is that the daughter of?"
Right.
I'm like, "Oh, you remember the adult, but you really have no idea who the child is."
Wow.
But can I really blame her if she's
Right.
got more cases than she can humanly, possibly manage?
Hmm.
So, yeah, yeah.
Wow. And I can imagine the workload kind of drives the process. They try to make things as efficient as possible, like it's a process that doesn't involve humans. And it's not, like you said, it's not necessarily intentional, but they're just trying to get through these roles, get through this backlog of of cases that they have. That's unfortunate. Now, I want to ask you to kind of think back to your journey in the early 2000s, and I was wondering how the experience that you all had as a two-dad family
Hmm.
might have impacted, or if it did at all, the experience that you had. And I'm wondering if you feel like the experience has improved for couples similar to you all
Hmm.
today.
Right. Well, that's a very good question. At the time when we went into the process, and we're talking about early 2000s, we
Hmm.
were, I would say, in the first wave,
Okay.
of out gay parents sort of entering the public adoption process.
Hmm.
California and some other states just opened basically they began to allow kind of unofficially under the radar
Okay.
gay men and gay couples to get certified and take the children. There was a kind of a change in the culture in the state, and especially in urban centers like Los Angeles and places
Hmm.
like that. However, at the same time, there it was a minority of states. It was not the
Hmm.
majority of states where that would have been the case. It was a minority of states, and in some states, we could have lost the custody of our children if we had crossed the state line or one of us. It
Wow.
was just there's some laws in place.
Sure.
So as we were going through the process, the whole idea that gay family, gay couples, gay individuals and gay couples can actually be just as good parents as anyone else
Hmm.
was just sort of like coming into the spotlight, culturally, socially, and in the media spotlight too.
Hmm.
And we didn't really achieve full equality until 2015. We got married in the state of California in 2008 in the
Okay.
presence of our kids, who at the time were 2 and 4. And I should say at that point, John and I had been together 11 years, and now
Hmm.
we've been together 26 years.
Hmm. Hmm.
So at the time when we got married, yeah, well, it was wonderful to get married, but you have to realize that we weren't exactly newlyweds, right? After
Right.
11 years. So, and then same-sex marriage was outlawed in California again later the
Hmm.
same year in 2008 with Proposition 8. So we ended up in the sort of a legal limbo where we were, in the eyes of the federal government, we were no one to each other,
Right.
two single individuals raising two related kids.
Hmm.
The state of California, where we're married, in many other states, which wouldn't recognize our marriage, were no. So it was kind of really kind of a weird, sort of schizophrenic situation, as I describe it. We
Sure.
and we continued to fight. We actually testified about the difficulties we went in being married, but also being denied the same rights as many others. We testified about that for the Judiciary Committee of the Senate, with a very early version of a law that passed on years later. In any
Hmm.
case, so in the last few years, I would say, as any other gay couple around the country, enjoy the same rights as anyone else. However, from what we can tell, those rights can be taken away very quickly,
Hmm.
like this.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so, we need to be vigilant and continue to state our case. The idea, I think I'm an optimistic person,
Hmm.
and I think the underlying idea here should be that, any functioning adult
Hmm.
can give a home to a child. Any functioning adult can raise a child.
Hmm.
And I would say adult and functioning are the two most important words here. It could be it could be a grandparent,
Hmm.
it could be a distant relative, it could be a non-related adult like us, it could be a
Sure.
single adult, it could be a couple adult, whoever they are.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think that understanding, I think most people share that.
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
when a child needs a home, I mean, it would be wonderful if those functioning adults would be the birth parents, but in the case when it isn't possible, then any functioning adult should be able to provide a home to a child, and there are hundreds of thousands of kids that need that home.
You are so right. And wow, the numbers that you describe in Los Angeles are really staggering. Um, I want to talk a little bit about how this experience influenced your relationship with your husband, like when you embarked on this journey, and even your extended families. What were they thinking on the outside looking in? You said this took years. How was that? How was the support of your village?
Right. It takes a village, as they say. In our situation, it was just the two of us
Hmm.
because my parents live in a different part of the state. John's parents passed away.
Hmm.
Most of his family also is out of town, so just really the two of us. So like,
Okay.
and by the way, when we're talking about going into the system, I always advise, those who ask me to set reasonable expectations for what you can do. Maybe push yourself a little bit,
Okay.
but be realistic. In our situation, okay, there are two of us who work full time. What can we handle?
Mm-hmm.
And you adjust to the workload,
Mm-hmm.
and you begin to figure out ways. And that's you begin to build your network, your village.
Mm-hmm.
And in our case, I would say it's primarily our neighborhood. And in our neighborhood, we have, I would say, I I think we're probably well, not we're not the only gay couple here, but it's
Mm-hmm.
mostly, our neighbors, straight, gay, whoever they are, and each of them have their own stories.
Mm-hmm.
We're helping them, they're helping us. So that was very important. Learning about the system from other parents, again, no matter who they are, that
Mm-hmm.
was important too. But I would say, um, if you ask Jonathan, and we were just giving an interview on the television station, and so he said that was probably the most formative, the most important experience he's had in his life,
Oh,
and that experience really brought us together closer
okay.
because we had to work together. Everything had to be split down the middle. Somebody needs to warm up the food, and the other person needs to do something else, and so who's going to take her to school? So you have to work together all the time. Over time, certain things would solve, like I would say I'm better at something and he's better at something, but that's just it's really not relevant. When things need to get done, they get done. They get done.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
we working together, building our family together, I think has really brought us closer together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think, yeah, that was a very, very important experience.
Hmm. Now, let's talk a bit about the children's perspective, like on the journey.
Right.
Like how did they respond to the different developments, the legal developments that happened and how they might affect your family? And then let's talk about where they are today and just how they
Right.
look back on their family experience as well.
Um, I think that's probably emotionally the hardest question for me to answer.
Okay.
Um, um, so we went through the process adopting two sisters. One
Mm,
of them was already in the foster system.
mm,
She was with her mother for the first 7 months of her life, and then her mother voluntarily placed her in foster system.
mhm.
And then she disappeared. Again, I'm kind of like telling you the beginning of the book a little bit, but what happened after that, you'll find out on your own.
Sure.
But but so we took our who ended up being our older daughter, Mariana. Uh, we um, we we met her when she was 1, and she was living in a temporary emergency foster home.
Hmm.
Now, you think of an emergency, think about 1 or 2 weeks. She'd been there for 5 months.
Mm, mhm,
And that was a strictly an emergency foster home, which was ran by an elderly lady. She had no, intention to adopt the babies that were coming into her home, and they were always sort of like on their way somewhere. So, so when we took her in, a child who did not have, I would say, a stable home in the
mhm,
first uh, year of their life, um, will will be, I mean, will have a certain amount of trauma. You have
mm,
to expect that. You have to
mhm,
expect that. And um, as she knows that we tried to give her the best we possibly could,
mhm, mhm,
and we're not perfect. I'm not trying to portray, every adoptive parent is and some sort of a savior or
mhm,
no, we're humans like anyone else, but we try to give her the most stable and loving and caring and protective environment we possibly could. And I think we were able to mitigate some of that trauma.
mm,
But from what I see, some of it will remain with the child. So, and you
mhm,
have to expect that. In comparison, her her sister, her baby sister was when she was born, but we knew that she was going to be born, because her birth mother was pregnant at the time, and the county asked us if we would take the newborn, and we said yes, of course. And so
Mm.
she had been with us since birth.
Right.
The first chapter of my book starts, actually, it's called Curbside Delivery, because that's the social worker bringing the child, the
Mm-hmm.
newborn, from
Mm.
the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So she went from the hospital straight to us, into our arms. I would say more specifically onto my onto my partner's chest.
Sure.
When she remained, I would say, for the first year of her life. So
Mm-hmm.
he would be, running the washer or watching TV, and she'll be right here, her
Mm-hmm.
ear to his heart. He would put her
Right.
down in the blanket, and she couldn't, move her head, and he would lie down next to her. She'd be looking at him, and he'd be looking at her.
Mm-hmm.
She she got very safely and securely attached,
Mm.
and we just don't have any of that sort of dynamic.
Mm.
She knows where her home is. She knows who her sister is. She knows
Mm-hmm.
who we are to
Mm-hmm.
her, and we never made any secret. And that's one thing I want to tell you about it, which is we were open about, but we tried to break the information down to the age
Sure.
level of the child. So what you can tell a 15-year-old, you can't tell a 5-year-old, right?
Right.
So they knew, they got to know the process. So when I wrote the book, um, our younger daughter has been sort of like, oh yeah, she took it and put it on the shelf.
Okay.
Like, well, don't you want to read it? Yeah, but I kind of know. Like, well, you should read it, sweetie. I mean, there's a whole lot more in it.
Sure.
Well,
Uh-huh.
but to her, I mean, she's not really interested in. I mean, like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, you know. Uh, with our older daughter, I didn't give it to her until the book actually came out, because it was not like I was trying to kind of put off the moment, because I knew it was going to bring up some
Mm-hmm.
things that
Mm-hmm.
sort of like lay very deeply buried
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
her. But she read it. She read it in one night.
Oh, wow.
She told us that she cried. She told us
Mm.
she loved us very much.
Sure, I can imagine.
And that's what I told her too. I said, I even wrote, and I said, Mariana, I said, you will read this, and it'll probably make you upset, not
Mm.
us. I mean,
Right, sure.
the details, the things that come up, but we want you to know that, we would try to do the best we could, and we still love you very much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, so fast forward
I
to
think she'll come to treasure that book because there's a lot in it's your family story.
yes, yes, and it's her story too.
Mm-hmm.
It is, though. You know, I'm the narrator. I mean, I'm telling the story. It's written based on what I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I didn't know all the facts. It's not like, I wasn't able to interview everyone involved, and it's written through like a little peephole from what I knew going through the
Mm-hmm.
process. But there are a lot of facts in it, because it's also based on the court orders and visitation logs and things like that. But even if I didn't know all the information, it also tells you that it was guiding what we were doing in the process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Based on what we were told, that would be our next step.
Right.
So, it's very truthful, and as far as I can
Mm-hmm.
tell.
Mm-hmm. We'll be right back after this. Are you a parent looking to unlock your potential in raising confident, capable, and courageous children? Well, look no further. Join us at the upcoming Parent and Purpose Summit Back to School Edition, where parenting experts from around the world will come together to share their wisdom and insights. I'm Carol Maletta, founder of the Parenting 411. This summit is your opportunity to gain essential skills and tools to become the parent you've always aspired to be. Over 5 incredible days, we'll dive deep into topics like positive discipline, effective communication, mental health, self-care, school readiness, and more. An attendee from our last summit told us, "This summit changed my parenting game. I feel more confident and connected with my children than ever before." So secure your seat at the Parent and Purpose Summit today. Visit parentandpurposesummit2023.com. That's parentandpurposesummit2023.com. And click the registration button to join us on this transformative journey. The Parent and Purpose Summit, where intentional parenting begins. And we're back with the Parenting 411. We alluded a little bit to the challenges and perceptions of being a two-dad family. We also have faith. Your Jewish heritage, of course,
Right.
is a very significant part of your identity. So how has that been intertwined with your parenting journey, and especially with what's going on today?
Right. Right. And I want you to know, Carol, I am a faithful person,
Sure.
and my faith has grown over the years. And I really felt that, it has given me a lot of strength and a lot of guidance. And I wanted to pass it on to the kids. And Jonathan and I had this understanding from even before the kids that whatever we want to bring in, it will be welcomed.
Right.
Jonathan is African American, I am Jewish, I'm Russian Jewish. And so our kids went to a Jewish school, and they had their
Okay.
bat mitzvahs at the synagogue
Okay.
that I've been a member of. At the same time, Jonathan puts the Christmas tree and Christmas decorations, and he gives gifts, and we do something special for Easter. And to me, that was perfectly fine because that's important to him, and that's part of his tradition. And as much as he wants to bring it in, we never really had a conflict about that. And so our kids are part Hispanic. I mean, they're Hispanic and white. And in the case of our younger daughter, she's also, mixed race. And so with all of that, as an adoptive parent, you kind of have to decide, okay, well, what culture do I want to raise them in, or
Right.
cultures? And I am a strong believer in the fact that it should be your culture. You're the parent. It's your family. It's your family. And this is what you know, and you want to pass the best of what you know to them. And to me, that's your heritage, your culture. And Jonathan and I have very rich histories and cultures and backgrounds to pass on, and that's what we do. That's what we do. Um, I would say our younger daughter, 'cause she's considering herself to be a Jewish woman of color.
Okay.
And that's our older daughter also was raised Jewish, but also they expect to celebrate Christmas because it's important to Jonathan, and they're attached. And so we wanted to give them the best of what we came from. Now that they're adults, they can decide which direction that we'll go into.
And
But
that was something I
but
was. Oh, go ahead.
I wanted to expand a little bit on faith, because in some ways, Carol, I feel that I was following a journey that was given to me. I'm very comfortable with who I am. I think I was meant to be who I am. I think I was meant to meet Jonathan, and 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 um we were meant to fall in love and meet each other and be together for the rest of our lives. And I also feel that these children were meant for us too, in some way. And less even like for us, as we were meant for them. When we met Mariana, and she was in a very difficult situation, being an infant, really. She needed a stable home that would support her the best way it can. And I felt like we were given to her, take her in and give her that childhood that she received. So, and to this day, when I'm thinking about, I'm trying to think, what does the Lord want for her? I don't want to
Right.
get in his way.
Mm-hmm.
I want to support their journeys, and instead of trying to project what I would want them to be, what is really their path? How can I best support it? That's where the faith comes in.
That's very important. Sounds like they have a really solid foundation. Culturally, I was also wondering, Do either of them feel any affinity for their Hispanic culture, and do they actively uh, engage with people in in that community and celebrate and even maybe celebrate customs there?
Well, we live in Los Angeles. It's a very multicultural place.
Uh-huh.
We have tried to expose them to Latino culture as much as we could,
Hmm.
as well. And through well, I think where do I even begin? Right here in Long Beach, we have Museum of Latin American Art, where they went to the camp
Okay.
where we've been members for
Hmm.
years.
Hmm.
Learning Spanish in school, all through high school. Our younger daughter took 3 years of it. We've traveled in Latin America with them.
Hmm.
And we have friends, right
Hmm.
here in this neighborhood,
Hmm.
who are Latino. So I would like them to feel part of it. And
Hmm.
honestly, to me, Los Angeles is part of Latin America. It's the northernmost,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Latino city. So it's here, it's available, it's part of it, and I would fully welcome them. But I think in some ways, to be truthful, I mean, I think in some ways, I think I'm more excited about it than they are.
Okay.
I
Okay.
would like I would like them to be more engaged, but our
Hmm.
younger though is like, well, I want to study Japanese. Like, no, you should stay with Spanish. I mean, that's part of who you are, and but like,
Hmm.
no, I want to study Japanese. Okay, well, you'll study what you want to study, I guess. But
Hmm. Hmm.
I would like them to be more engaged. But ultimately, it's up to them to decide. But they have been exposed very much so over the years.
Hmm. Hmm.
I would even, the celebration of the Day of the Dead is very, very big in Los Angeles.
Okay.
It's a traditional Mexican celebration in November, and I would used to take them. We used to paint faces
Hmm.
and carry the kind of like we used to be part of the procession here in East Los Angeles.
Okay.
So all these things are very much part of it.
Hmm. Okay. So you mentioned your memoir, and I strongly advise people to buy it, and you'll tell them in a minute where they can find it. But what key insights or messages do you want to leave with readers, whether they are planning to adopt or not?
Well, I'd like to go back to be open to the unexpected.
Hmm.
And think of that as a journey that you're starting on that in some ways might be predestined for you.
Hmm.
Know your limits when you choose a child, because going into the foster adoption system, you can set the limits, in terms of gender, age, and,
Hmm.
medical condition, by the way. That's, you can, and
Hmm.
kind of like know what you can do best.
Hmm.
Um, Resist projecting your expectations on your child,
Hmm.
build on their natural strengths because they are who they are.
Hmm.
And exactly because biologically they're not yours, you really should be kind of try to observe him more. Like, to give you
Hmm.
an example, I noticed that our younger daughter had a lot of upper body strength.
Okay.
And so I'm like, well, I'd like her to be this and that, but clearly she seems to be an athlete. I'm not an athlete, but she
Right.
seems to be an athlete. So I put her in water polo, and she really enjoyed playing water polo for years. She was very, very good for 7 years. This was very
Mm.
much a big part of our lives, water
Wow.
polo. But what I'm saying is build on their natural strengths, try to really learn who that child is as they grow. And I would also say, remember to take care of your partner.
Hmm. Hmm.
People, because you go into this journey with them. This is where it should be. Um, no matter what parenting will put you through, you really need to do all you can to stay together. I've seen families split by the uncertainties of the adoption process, of power struggles,
Hmm.
but you need to keep an eye on your partner, love them more, give them more, and never take them for granted.
Hmm.
So
Well,
those are some
all
some of the things that came up for me.
thank you for sharing that. And all of those sound great for parents in general, like especially that resonated with me in terms of meeting your children where they are and observing them and really getting to know what they're interested in, what really makes their heart sing. And that's something we all should do, even with our biological children. We have no more right to push them in a certain path than any other parents in any other family. So I like that you shared that. So where can listeners learn more about your writing and your advocacy?
Well, my book is called A Family Maybe, and you can find it on Amazon, Bookshop, wherever. I have a website,
Mhm,
which is laneigoudin.com, LANEIGOUDIN.com, and I'm quite active on Instagram and Facebook. So if you have any questions, please reach out.
mhm,
I'll be happy to. I'll be happy to respond to. I enjoy hearing from people who read the book.
mhm.
Um, Yep. So yeah.
And what's your handle on Instagram?
Um, it's at Lane Igoudin.
Oh, okay.
I think it's Lane Igoudin.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Lane Igoudin. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Lane. It's really, you sh I really enjoyed hearing your story, your journey. I know there's so much more in your book that will really flesh out the story. But I thank you for just being so transparent and authentic about your journey and being courageous and tenacious and building that family for those girls who really, really needed it. I know they are, I'm sure they are forever grateful. And it sounds like they really love their family and like to celebrate it and honor it. And that's an accomplishment for all of us parents. That's something we all want for our children. And to our listeners, thank you for joining in. Once again, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. Share this episode in particular because I think it will inspire so many parents. As usual, follow the Parenting 411 on Facebook, Instagram, as well as YouTube. In fact, as you all know, you can always come back. You want to catch this episode again, you can check it out on YouTube. And I want to give you something that will help you be courageous and tenacious, like Lane and his husband and family. And I'll give you a free gift. It's called Fireproof Quotes. Just head on over to bit.ly/fireproof2. That's bit.ly/fireproof2 and grab your fireproof quotes that can really affirm you and charge you up every day for this parenting journey, which can be quite challenging. You never know sometimes what you're going to get when you wake up in the morning, but I do believe in you. I know that you have everything you need to make it through. And remember that it is never too late to be the parent you want to be. Thanks again for joining, and I can't wait to talk to you again next time.